Ireland, a land of mystery and magic, sacred sites and natural wonders. A land whose history, culture, and irresistible gravity I've returned to 3 times now, this time with my beautiful bride. Beginning our trip in Dublin, as you do, the first place we had to eat was the obligatory Brazen Head pub, Dublin's oldest pub, established in 1198. We then walked to the old Jameson Distillery on Bow Street, where Jameson whiskey was distilled up until 1971, when the operation was moved to another facility, but which now gives an excellent presentation on its history and its distillation methods, guided whiskey tastings, has a large visitor center, and most importantly, a full bar. After we had wet our whistle, we went to see the largest church building in Ireland, St. Patrick's Cathedral. Established in 1191, only 7 years before the Brazen Head, St. Patrick's began as a collegiate church, but over time grew in importance and in size, and is today the national cathedral of the Church of Ireland. One of its most famous deans, the author and satirist Jonathan Swift, is buried here under the prominent bust and epitaph. We had booked a villa in the tidy little village of Adare in the middle of the country, so we started heading that way toward evening. But on the way, in the town of Kildare, was a mystical sight that I couldn't pass up. St. Brigid's Well is one of many holy wells across the island, but this particular one is associated with St. Brigid, who founded a monastery for women here in the year 470 AD. Brigid is one of the 3 patrons of Ireland, along with St. Columba and St. Patrick, and her story has become entwined with several legends throughout the centuries. But this spring would certainly have been well known to her and her monastic sisters during her lifetime, having most likely been previously a sacred well to the pagan population of generations past, but now sanctified by the use and presence of so holy a Christian saint. The site, passing from pagan to Christian use, has not, because of that, lost its character as what the Irish call a thin place, a place where the veil between this physical world and the spiritual is particularly permeable. After arriving at our villa late that night, we got up early the next day and immediately headed an hour and 20 minutes northwest to the breathtaking Cliffs of Moher on the west coast in County Clare. The iconic grandeur of emerald pastures terminating in the treacherous drop-offs over a sprawling Atlantic Ocean is an experience that pictures don't do justice to. You have to experience this in person. We felt our own fragility in such a place keenly when we were caught in the strongest windstorm any of us had ever felt before. We literally couldn't move until it let up. After we were finally freed from the tempest on the cliffs, we stopped at yet another holy well associated with the intercessions of St. Brigid. Again, this well was sacred to the pre-Christian peoples of Ireland for centuries, but after Ireland's conversion it was re-associated with that powerful patroness, Brigid, whose intercessory prayers undoubtedly are mingled with the petitions made by thousands of pilgrims here, which they've attached to this place in the form of mementos, prayer beads, statues, photographs, letters, and candles, little sacramentals adding to the patina of holiness this special place has maintained for times untold. Before driving back to our villa in Adare, we puttered down the road to the little coastal village of Doolin, where we refreshed ourselves at O'Connor's pub with some hearty Irish fare, several pints of beer, and some music for the soul.
And it always breaks my heart when I think of Josephine. I promised her I'd be coming home with my pockets full of green. It's a long, long way from plenty. It's a long, long way from plenty. Oh, it's a long, long way. It gets further day by day. It's a long, long way from plenty.
On day 3, we began by visiting the nearby Lough Gur, a small but absolutely beautiful lake that's one of Ireland's most important archaeological sites because of the many nearby megalithic remains. One exceptional location is the Grange Stone Circle, the biggest stone circle in Ireland, built around 4,000 years ago. It's made up of 113 large stones, the largest of which is 13 feet high and weighing 40 tons. Its entrance is aligned to the sunrise on the summer solstice, like many other stone circles, suggesting, though we honestly don't know, a ritualistic purpose. There's something about the magic of this area that, in addition to drawing people to it for thousands of years, also makes it a favorite spot for fairies, too, although none showed themselves to us. For the rest of the day, we explored the village of Adair, where we were staying. We sampled local restaurants, checked out a few old churches, including the Holy Trinity Abbey, established sometime around 1240 AD and the only abbey of the Order of Trinity in all of Ireland. And the old Augustinian friary, also known as Black Abbey, founded in 1360, which is now the Church of Ireland parish of St. Nicholas. We finished the day at the big manor house in Adair, the former home of the Earl of Dunraven, and now a luxury hotel and resort. It boasts the oldest and largest cedar of Lebanon in Ireland, some magnificent Tudor Revival and Gothic Revival architecture, and a very swanky cellar bar offering an exclusive menu of bespoke cocktails. On our fourth day, we headed up into the nearby city of Limerick, where we visited King John's Castle, a 13th century castle on the River Shannon and one of the best preserved Norman castles in Ireland. We also visited the Catholic Cathedral of Limerick, St. Mary's, founded in 1168, now the oldest continuous use building in the city. We finished the day by driving down to our next lodging in Killarney and doing a bit of lurking in a pub. Our fifth day in Ireland we spent at the country's largest national park, Killarney National Park, visiting the Grand Muckross Manor House, Ross Castle, and my favorite, the monastery ruins on Innisfallen Island. We hired a boat to ferry us out to the island, where we discovered we had the entire island to ourselves to explore. Since the 7th century, this island was the site of Christian monastic life, though all of its earliest buildings were destroyed several times over by the Vikings. The 12th and 13th century remains still standing, were built by Augustinians who knew the place as the Priory of St. Mary. At the close of the day, we drove down to the very remote fishing village of Helvick Head on the southeast coast, where Irish is used on road signs, and where we had the pleasure of having drinks at Murray's, established in 1848.
And how long does it take to break it down?
Thomas's cousin.
How long does it you had to cut it, break it down, put it?
We woke up on our 6th and last day in Ireland and had breakfast at our quaint Airbnb in Helvick. Driving about 25 minutes southwest brought us to Ardmore, the home of one of the earliest recorded Christian saints in Ireland, St. Declan. Declan lived in the 400s AD and was a member of the powerful ruling noble class, the Deci. Tradition states that he was baptized by a certain priest named Colman, and he afterwards studied in Rome, becoming a priest and possibly a bishop. He returned to Ireland before St. Patrick ever set foot on the island, converting many of the ruling class in the south and founding a monastery here in Ardmore. His hermitage was built near a spring, now known as St. Declan's Well, and a small church, now in ruins, was also built on the site. Very nearby is the primitive oratory of St. Declan, as well as the Romanesque ruins of a cathedral and the 12th century round tower, still in excellent shape. From there, we drove to the largest city in the region, Waterford, which also happens to be the oldest established city in all of Ireland, founded by the Vikings in 914 AD. Beginning with Reginald's Tower, the oldest civic building in Ireland, we walked the Viking Triangle and enjoyed the history of this old city. We also took a moment to gawk at some of the famous Waterford crystal at its factory showroom. Before ending our trip in Dublin later that evening, we paused en route for some dinner and sightseeing at Castle Dermot, a small out-of-the-way town which, surprisingly, is distinguished as the site of the first ever Irish Parliament in 1264, and more interestingly, I think, boasts a 10th century round tower and two very large 9th century high crosses, all now a national monument. There were also, of course, some beautiful church ruins, in this case of a 14th century Franciscan friary. After 6 magical days in this beautiful country, I was left, once again, wishing I had more time here, and yearning for the day I get to come back. For us, the natural beauty and the history of this enchanted country are reason enough to return. But all of the people we met and talked with along the way are also a compelling reason, as we absolutely fell in love with the friendliness of strangers, the perfect pub culture, and the overall atmosphere of this Emerald Isle. Erin go bragh.